Okay, welcome back to the Precision Data Analytics channel this evening. Okay, let's come over here now and do this, and do this. Okay, so welcome back again. This, of course, is time for another live session of data stock analysis. The victim for this evening is, of course, what? Applied Materials Inc. And as always, by all means, be sure to drop by and drop by the chat session and say hi. So we'll use our standard setup, standard plots. Okay. Our standard plots, all right. If I can get this over here. As always, be sure to stop by the chat session and say hi. Okay. Okay, so we'll be using ChatGPT to give us some context to the stock this evening. We'll also have a ChatGPT to tell us whether or not it thinks that this stock is going to close higher at the end of the month than it did at the open of the month. Okay, so let's begin with a little bit of context. Okay. So let's say, tell me. Tell us about Applied Materials Inc. You get a little. It's always good to get a little context in it. I said, give me some context. Look at this. It gives us some photographs. Wow, this is pretty impressive. Applied Materials is a NASDAQ stock, an American company headquartered in Santa Clara, California. Its core business: designing, manufacturing, servicing equipment, software, and materials engineering solutions used to fabricate semiconductor chips. Interesting. Flat panel displays and related devices. The company has describes itself as a leader in materials engineering solutions used to produce virtually every new chip and advanced display in the world. Key business activities: semiconductor equipment and systems. This is the largest and most important segment. It builds tools that perform processes such as atomic layer disposition, chemical vapor disposition, etch, physical vapor disposition. Global services include maintenance, upgrade, spare parts, display and adjacent makers, strategy, positions. Applied Manufacturing is among the world's largest suppliers of semiconductor manufacturing equipment. So it is closing up. Current core. Net income and margins vary with the industry cycle. Strengths, key risk and challenges, cyclical demand. Okay, good. Let's minimize that. So just again, this is our topic for this evening. We'll pin that message up there then. So again, this evening we are talking about applied mechanics or applied materials. All right. Let's jump over to our code now. Our main stock charts are made using simply Quantmod. Oh, we do add a little bit of tidyverse Quantmod. We don't need that twice. Although we do a little bit of tricky stuff here. We do a little bit of more advanced coding. The advantage to Quantmod as always is the simplicity. As you'll see, it's very. All it takes is one line function call to create most of your most important financial plots, like Bollinger Bands, MACD plots, bar plots, candlestick plots, and stuff like that. Moving averages. Those are all done with the 1 or 2 line function calls. Okay. So here's our stock symbol. Of course, before we get started, what's the standard disclaimer? I'm presenting this simply for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be taken as financial advice. I certainly won't be using anything I see here this evening to make financial decisions in the near future. Okay. Of course, as always, a big shout out to 100 plus people who watched each one or 2 videos yesterday. Thank you so much. Of course, my continued plea is click that like button for me and share the video with one of your neighbors, one of your friends this week. Okay. So that's load our libraries. Nothing tricky here. You don't really need that, of course, because it's included in. And we don't need that, of course, because it's part of tidyverse, okay? So Quantmod, tidyverse, liquidate profit, okay? Oh, then we're going to load our data since 2024, and you can see the data is current through yesterday evening. And of course, as always, I say again, don't be bashful. Stop by the chat session and say hi. Then we'll run a vertical, your basic vertical box plot of the closing prices by month since 2024. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing over here again for the vertical numbers, okay? So we run the code, then we actually display the plots. Okay. Holy smoke! This is the the stock part since June of this year, January, February, March, April, May, June, since the end of the second quarter. So we got the look what happened back in September. Goodness gracious! Good grief! And look at the difference here between the average and the difference between the average and the median price. And again, the wider the blocks, larger the block, this represents the 50 percentile. So 50% of the values are located within this blocks. So the wider the block, the more the volatility in the stock for that month. So in September, August is a little bit crazy on us, you know. But maybe this is a good thing because it means that the price closed higher, right? Okay. What about, look at it as a vertical plot. So again, you can see couple crazy months here. Then he had 2 consecutive. Currently, the October was a very good month, low volatility, but much higher closing prices. And right now, November's on a course to have even a higher stock prices closing. Okay, let's take a look at the first and last closing prices of the month. Look what happened back over here. Hokey smoke! What in the world happened back there? Yeah, of course, as always, you know, don't be bashful. Stop by the chat section. I'll give me a few encouraging words. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 out of 11 months worth of data. They saw returns, right? Hopefully, this will turn around. Again, this is a reminder. The star represents the first closing price of the month. The diamond, the triangle, the last closing price of the month. Okay. So far in October, they're actually the last closing price is higher than the first closing price of the month. Okay. Bollinger Band plots. Look what happened here. Hokey smoke went above. Then took a big dive down here. Okay, big dive down below the 2 standard deviations, and it actually dipped below no, this is the 20 moving average. The red lines represent plus and minus 2 standard deviations. And it actually dipped below the 2 standard deviations. Then it went back above in September again. A big move up in September. Look at this. It's outside the +2 standard deviation. It came back in, but now it's still finishing. A lot of volatility here, but the volatility, as we saw so far, October, November, has begun to settle back down. All right. Candlestick plots. A nice continuing upward trend. Again, we look back here at October, September, a couple big moves, a couple also big drop, a big close. Again, the red means the price closed lower. Okay, and I believe the upper band, the upper whisker means that's the highest price for today. And if there's no whisker, then that means the closing price there's no lower closing price set. You know, some big positive moves, big negative moves. If we look here, look right back here in this MACD plot. Very strong movement right over here. Look at this. This is crazy. Above and below. Okay. What about the moving average? Well, look at this. Back in September, a big late August, early September, it dipped below this 100 moving average line. But then look at this big move from 160 sometime in August all the way above 220 to 240. That's insane. But something must have happened to really move their stock. Okay. Now look at this, way above. What is this? Let's come back over here for a second. Okay. Let's see. Because one of these is overbought and the other is oversold. Okay. Okay, so over here, 70 is overbought. So you can see things went really crazy. We're up to like 80. First back here, back in September. Here's the neutral line. Here's the, back in September, it was oversold. Okay. All right. Then back over here, it went overbought. Now it's leveled back off. Now it's back down around 50, 60, so it's more normal. Okay. Stock may be overbought, potential pullback or short. So over here, it was overbought. Stock may be oversold, possible rebound, or so over here it was oversold. So this could be a divergence, meaning that because it's going up, but this is actually moving down. Okay. So what's our conclusion? We're back here in mid-September. It went stock may be overbought, potential for pullback or short. Now it's down around 57, so it's kind of neutral. Okay. If the price makes new highs, but the RSI makes lower highs, that's bearish divergence. Interesting. If the price moves new lows, okay, so let's do this. Let's see. Make sure there's no one back here joining me. Okay, very good. Okay. Let's see if you can give me an RSI plot. Of course, again, I'm going to say this. That's okay. We'll skip that. Okay, I thought I'd access the data. Okay, let's clear this out then. So anyway, well, you can see that the RSI was falling as the price was increasing, okay? Now let's move on to monthly, quarterly, weekly, monthly, quarterly returns. Quite a few returns, positive returns, a couple big negative returns down here. Maybe monthly will give us a clear picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 times out of the last 11 months, 10, 11 months, we've had positive returns. 1, 2, 3, 4 months of negative returns. What's this here then? Quarterly returns. Again, the first quarter had negative returns, followed by a big recovery in June. And in the second quarter, it looks like the fourth quarter is up from the third quarter. Okay, very good. Now let's move on to our profit plots. Again, we use 6, 12, and 24 months worth of data to do our forecast. I allow you to pick your own poison. Say which one you want to use. Which one you want to use. Of course, again, I want to say again here that I'm strictly presenting this for demonstration purposes only. Okay, do not use this to make financial decisions. So this is predicting a big increase over the next 30 days. Okay, look at this. It's talking going from 250 up to maybe 280. So that's still 25-point claim for that one there. See what the 12 months data uses. It's actually saying the price is going to drop back down. So this is kind of interesting, isn't it? It's actually in the forecast is below the actual value. So it's sort of interesting. Of course, what we're really interested in is really just a trend. It's a good idea whether or not the price is going to close higher or lower than at the end of the month. We're not really concerned with individual forecasted closing numbers. Okay. And again, so we have the 12 and 24 months saying that the prices actually may drop over the next 30 days. That's interesting. Don't save. So let's look for another plot here. Okay, let's look for the dividend. Okay. I'm looking for the dividend code. Here it is. Let's try this. Let's do ticker. See if this works. Okay, and here's our dividend. So one of the reasons, so this is pretty good. So 2024, this is the 221. So this would probably be the fourth quarter, 2024. So the dividend saw an increase. Let's go back to 2020. Take a longer time. Okay, so you can see since 2020, the last 4 years, the dividends have increased almost every year. Interesting. Okay, Okay, so that's our main analysis this evening. Now let's come back over here, and let's what we want to know is if the if the AMAP price is going to close higher at the end of the month than than at the beginning of the month. This is kind of interesting. Here it is. All right. Here is my assessment of whether AMAT applied materials is likely to close higher at the end of the month. Factors pointing towards a higher close. The stock has shown some momentum. Recent technical indicators show a bullish tilt. Moving averages align positively. Short-term forecasts by some platforms project modest upside for November. One model estimates 4.3% increase. Come back up here to open 232. What is a 4.2 coin codex? The company occupies a strong position in semiconductor equipment market, which is expected to benefit from long-term secular trends, AI advanced chips, even amid short-term pressures. Factors pointing towards a lower or uncertain outcome. The company expects year-over-year decline in fourth quarter. Interesting. Projected. Interesting. Macro and geopolitical risk. Export control pressures, especially China. Inventory corrections in chip equipment space and weaker volatility. Analyst consensus price targets are moderately pessimistic. Average target $211 implies downside in the current level. Interesting. My view, given the balance of these factors, I lean slightly towards AMAT closing higher at the end of the month than at the start, but with caution. Reasoning, the technical and momentum backdrop is supportive, and secular tailwinds remain intact. But near-term fundamentals and risk factors, earnings drop, geopolimetic cycle risk, reduce the probability of a strong upward move and increase. So yes, I believe it is likely to close higher, but the upside probability will be modest. The probability is not overwhelmingly strong, perhaps like 60 or 70% based on my heredity. If you like, I can pull together probabilistic scenario analysis based a potential closing price in November. Well, yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? If I can spell. So you can see here it's telling us all of the various sources it's looking at. set the hurdle. First trading day closed November 3rd, 237. Last close November 7th. Near-term catalyst. The next earnings report appears November 10th, 15th. Okay. Probabilistic scenarios in November. Base slightly higher than start. Ranges 238 to 246. 0 to 3.5%. Drivers inline steady guide. Okay, upside, downside, bottom line. Given the small 3.3% hurdle, and on an options market applying 99% monthly moved. Okay. Sure, I would love you. I would love you to set a thing for it. So anyway, given the small 3.3, the option market implying 9% monthly move around earnings, I give a 55 to 60% chance that AMAT finishes November above the November start, close to $237. So what's it going to do here then? There. So this would mean I have to have access to my account, okay. Again, we can see all of the various sources it's accessing today. Okay. Sure. I'll allow you to do it. There you go. So here's a question. What caused this big jump? On September 22nd, Morgan Stanley upgraded AMAT to overweight from equal weight and raised their price target from an estimated 172. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? They cited improved outlook for wafer fab equipment and the particular strongest demand in DRAM memory chips. Earlier in the month, analysts highlighted that the memory SAPEX cycle was picking up. For example, the WFE market forecast was raised, reflecting that chip makers are beginning to order more equipment. Market sentiment within the semiconductor equipment sector improved. Why the jump is cautious? Risk still persists. Even though the price popped, underlying fundamentals still had a visible headwind, weak China demand, so forth. Simply, Wall Street pointed out that despite the jump, the company's growth outlook next few years was only modestly above the market average. The jump seems to have been driven by improved expectations and sentiment. My judgment, the large jump, 27% in September, is explainable probably by optimism around the memory chips. In short, the market became okay. Let's see. In short, the market began to believe a recovery in the segment. Spending was nearer than previously expected. Sure. Let's take a look at order and Good. I found some relevant commentary and strategic disclosures from Applied. What we have. Okay. At the Goldman Sachs Communipica Technology Conference on September 9th, AMAT CEO laid out the advanced packaging business is targeting to double from over $1.5 billion to $3 billion in the coming years. Well, the coming years is a fairly vague term, right? If you have over the next 20 years, but anyway, DRAM customer spending is leading DRAM customers. Was referenced as being up 50% this year. Emphasized a strong order availability in leading edge foundry logic. On September 2023, AMAT announced a strategic collaboration with global foundries to accelerate AI-powered. Okay, so there's a press. On the macro side, the Institute for Supply Material Management no disclosure of specific contract orders by customer region or available. No published invoice building a backlog. So while the narrative is straight ahead, it's clear. My conclusion on the apply, because of public disclosure, shows strong forward indicators, but not the full quantitative order invoice data. The market price jumped in September. In effect, expectation of orders drove sentiment. Okay. No, I think that's going to be it for this evening. So what do you think about? Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about ChatGPT's analysis of the stock. Okay. Again, I'll point out this is strictly for education purposes only. Do not use anything you see in this video to make a financial decision. I certainly won't be. Okay. So there you have it. Applied Materials Inc.'s stock analysis using Quantmod and ChatGPT to actually explain some of the data